will return safe at the end of each day.
Mr. Chair.
The Honourable Simon Bridges.
Chair, it's a great pleasure and a privilege to take a call as the relevant minister on this bill. And I say that very mindful that, as I apprehend it, there's multi-partisan support for this bill, and that's a very good thing indeed, because I think we are, as a House, doing absolutely the right things here. Firstly, in implementing the Royal Commission on Pike River's recommendations, really across the board, but also doing something, if I can say, that's wider than that, which is having regard and implementing the Independent Task Force on Health and Safety's recommendations, particularly in this part, to establish WorkSafe New Zealand. And just to talk very briefly about WorkSafe New Zealand, I think we can say this is really something exceptionally significant, part of, along with this bill and future work, and a bill I hope to also introduce before the end of the year, Health and Safety Reform Bill, the biggest reforms in health and safety in 20 years, perhaps actually longer than that. WorkSafe New Zealand, just to reassure the member, Damien O'Connor, I think we can say will be a very well-resourced independent Crown agent. Indeed, the funding's going from some 50-odd million to about $80 million per annum. May not sound like much, but 5 cents to 8 cents health and safety levy increase on workers, and that will mean, I'm confident, that it has the funding to do the job of health and safety in this country properly. There'll be a review of that. My memory is 2016-17 again, to make sure that we fund this important work properly. We've heard from the member Brendan Horan, some 300 people are transferring over to this new Crown agency that will independently be looking after health and safety. Actually, by the time I think the funding's in place and we're finished, it will be, I think, reasonably significantly more numbers than that. So, as I say, this is significant work we're doing. And, this will be a body that will have, I think, all the tools in the toolkit. Education at one end, working with business, through to, yes, some tougher penalties and, I suppose, tools in the toolkit on that end of the spectrum. So that's a good thing. Of course, there's other parts of this bill as well we'll come to in other speeches in this House. We get on to other parts, but I just thought it was important to talk about WorkSafe New Zealand. Actually, quite a big departure from what we've done in the past, going against the trend actually of not necessarily setting up new Crown agencies as we've seen over the last few years. I think this is the first one in some time like this, and that's, I think, a good thing, because it does need to be independent, it does need to be strong, it does need to have a sole focus on health and safety, because our record across governments and as a society of 75 people dying per annum, it's about what it is at the moment, is simply not good enough. In fact, if we benchmark it with other countries, it's pretty poor. And I, for one, am confident, actually, that whilst it's ambitious, WorkSafe's really target from me, from the government, I think from this House, to have at least a 25% reduction by 2020 can be achieved. And, resourcing it, giving it the tools is very important. I think just to touch briefly on some of the members' contributions, and we've had some thoughtful speeches, very constructive speeches. Member Damien O'Connor's talked about the Machinery Act. I would advise the member that will be repealed through the new Health and Safety Reform Bill. So I think we are making sure we're modernising. Of course, WorkSafe will also have powers to advise me, to, I suppose, push me and future ministers of Labour to change regulations, to look at laws and make sure we continually are updating them and keeping them fit for purpose. I want to also assure the member, look, the whole policy team now has been underground. I've been underground, Huntley East Mine. It was an eye-opener for me to see that and see what's happening there, to be literally covered, and I was going to say black, actually it's white because I think they're covered in lime or something, don't they? But the coal there, quite impressive. To see what's happening there as we actually further SOP on this, Mr Speaker, Mr Chair. The protocols, we tried to put in place a good protocol for safety underground. That's why I was there. I think we also say to the member, look, his other point that, hey, the workers, the people down there, we need to be talking to them. We certainly
Sorry to interrupt the Honourable Minister. The time has come for me to report progress.
The House is resumed. Mr Chairman.
Mr Speaker, the committee has considered the Health and Safety Pike River Implementation Bill and reports progress. Mr Speaker, I move that the report be adopted.
The question is that the report be adopted. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. The bill is set down for further consideration in committee next sitting day, and the House stands adjourned until 2 p.m. tomorrow. Good evening, everybody.